From UK, you have come back to India, and then what happened?
Well, actually, let me first introduce the fact that these points I all brought out in my latest book, Fractured Freedom, a prison memoir. It was published by Rodi Publishers, and it traced the whole background of mine, family background and everything, and activities in the first section. The second section dealt with the jail experience, and the last section dealt with my analysis of what I have done for 50 years and the weaknesses and possible changes.
Okay.
So this book is, of course, will be out in Telugu also in the next 2 months.
Okay.
Brought out by Vishal Andhra only.
Okay.
And translation is nearly complete. And then probably the local people can also get an idea of it. The book surprisingly sold very well. It sold, it's nearly 5,000 copies sold out even in COVID times.
Wow.
And Amazon had it on its bestseller list.
Okay.
Surprisingly, there was a lot of interest even from the non-left sections of the people. So after I came back from London, as I said, I was looking around for revolutionaries and things like that, and came across this one group that was there. I started working in a slum near my house at Worli in Bombay, and doing social activities, fighting for water. There was no living conditions, in fact, in the slum, really terrible, given it was in the heart of Bombay.
In 70s?
In the 70s. 72 I returned from UK.
So right after this Indo-Pak war.
Yes, true, 71, yeah. So I started working there, and for them getting their facilities, water, electricity, sanitation, just the basic necessities were not there then. And we managed to get a lot of it through struggles over a long period of time. Meanwhile, the Dalit Panther movement broke out in this area. And so I participated in that. In fact, that is the only time I was introduced. Like I knew nothing about racism, I also knew nothing about caste in our sheltered lives. So I read up about caste, I read about Ambedkar, and I felt it is an important issue to take up. But the organization, the ML organization, the Jan Shakti group, it was there, was quite opposed to it. Like most of the Marxists are not taking up. They dogmatically interpret what happened in Russia, China, only that is out here. And they don't want to delve into Indian reality. So they were very hesitant to do it, but I persisted, and then finally Panther movement got over, but there were a series of Dalit movements shaking Maharashtra in the next decade. The Marathwada Andolan movement, the naming of university after Ambedkar. Then they banned the Riddles of Hinduism book of Ambedkar. There was a movement to remove that ban. Then there was the movement over they put a Chappal ka Haar over Ambedkar statue in Chembur. And that, when people protested, there was firing and 11 Dalits were killed.
Wow.
That burst out all over Maharashtra again. And the last final big movement was the Khelnanji issue in Bhandara, where Dalits were raped and killed by the Marathas.
Wow.
So these movements were there. It was a sort of awakening of the Dalits, and it's had its all India impact. And by accident only, and Dalit issue was very close to my earlier concept of racism. So naturally I quickly allied with that type of movement.
Right.
And basically then we shifted to Nagpur. Then we got married, Anuradha and myself, in 77. She was a student activist, then a lecturer in sociology. And after marriage, a few years, the emergency came. After the emergency, the Janata Party rule came. And then we moved to Nagpur and we lived most of our time there in the largest Dalit slum basti of Maharashtra, Indora.
Okay.
So, and then we worked amongst workers and Dalits mostly, like that, on Dalit issues and workers mostly, both in Bombay and then in Nagpur or Vidarbha also.
Okay.
All those things are outlined in the first part of my book. Then also our background, Anu's background, Anuradha's background, my background, family background, our marriage and all that stuff.
Okay.
And our associationship. And
so was it, love marriage or?
Yeah, love marriage it was.
Okay.
I mean, she's her parents are communists, were communists, the old type communist CPI. So her father is a Kannadika, her mother is a Gujarati.
Okay.
And all her sisters and mother's sisters and brothers are communists.
Okay.
In fact, the only brother was the only CPI MLA from Aurangabad.
Oh.
Twice.
Okay.
But so their family was quite open to anything, and my family, Parsis are normally very rigid about marrying within Parsis, but actually now you will also find a trend, there are no Parsis left, so people are marrying anywhere outside. But my parents were also, I told you, supportive of me and my ideas. So we had the marriage by then my father had retired and gone to this hill station, Mahabaleshwar, Panchgani Mahabaleshwar.
Oh, okay.
So we got married there with a small function with her parents, my parents, and calling the registrar.
Okay.
That's all. And a few others, relatives. So it was a very small function. So it was that type of...
So how did you get to know each other first of all?
Well, actually she was active in the student movements in Elphinstone College. She was the student leader.
Okay.
And this group that I saw advertised, posters were up and I joined, she was a member, she was part of that.
Okay.
So then we were both part of that.
Okay.
That was in 72 when I returned. Then we were working together and then slowly in 77 we married in Mahabaleshwar.
So you continued your, CA practice over here as a chartered accountant?
No. I threw it up out there. I threw it up in UK.
Okay.
And came back and became full-time into
But
activities.
here in India, you did not work
nothing.
on anything. Okay.
I did a little bit of journalist writing, but earning was... Actually, we had inherited some property from this Worli flat and all that. And we sold it all. And gave the organization also spent, and she was earning as a lecturer. That was enough. And if there was any shortage, there was this money also that was there. Most of it was donated to the organization.
Okay.
And running the organization.
You were totally into the movement?
Totally into the movement, totally full time. Then, then after that, so we were totally into, both of us. But she was always lecturing, part-time lecturer. She was both in Nagpur and in Bombay.
Okay.
In Wilson College. She did a MPhil, and she was a sociology lecturer. Very good sociology. She had a good reputation in her education also.
Right.
So we worked here amongst the Dalits and things like that, and then worked in Nagpur till 2000.
Okay.
And we came back here. By then she had also got a lot of systemic sclerosis. It's an autoimmune disease, and she had arthritis also. And she was quite not so well. But anyway, finally in 2009, she had gone for this Mahila class in Jharkhand Forest. They had called her, asked her to take a class of the leading Adivasi activists, Mahila activists.
Okay.
She did that, and not realizing that she got contracted falciparum malaria. And when she came back to Bombay, we didn't do proper tests, so didn't show up. By the time she was admitted to a big hospital, she died. Went into coma and died.
Okay.
And 1.5 years after that, I was arrested, and then spent the next 10 years in jail.
So how did that happen? How did that happen? Like, why you were arrested? But because you were active in the movement, but not in a violent movement, right? So
But we had our sympathies with the Naxalite movement everywhere. She, in fact, worked for 2 years with the Maoists in Bastar. She did go there. I didn't. I just went and saw and observed what they were doing and came back. So we were not in that way linked.
She worked with them?
She worked for 2 years, gaining that experience with the Mahila organization there.
Okay. So what they used to do? What they used to do?
I mean, they were organizing the women. It's a huge organization. 90,000 members they have.
Wow.
The KAMS. And on all women's issues, they were organized. That's there in her book also, what her experience was.
Okay. So, I mean, these 90,000 members, I mean, like, what they do? They are like, these Naxalites who fight violently.
Yeah, they fight also, and they do development work, they do other medical work, they do that type of...
So different wings will be there within that organization.
Yeah,
Okay.
there'll be different wings, and
Okay.
it's organized like that, and it's a very big women's organization, and they very firm about fighting against any incidents of patriarchal. They have a rule out there, they had at least, I don't know what the situation now is, that if a boy or a girl come into the organization or join the organization, for 2 years they are not allowed to get married. They must come to know each other, and then after 2 years you can get married. And that's the norm. So they were getting married, and also there was a norm then, I don't know what it is now, not to have children. So even Anuradha and I had a vasectomy. Men have vasectomies. So we don't have children, neither do most of them out there, because it's a movement is out there. And what I observed out there is the movement people, when they come to the village, they virtually all the children are like their children. It's like that. So, but I don't know if that policy is still there. I don't know what is there. It's not sustainable for long, so not having kids. So that period got over. She died. I went to jail. So the next section of my book is my jail experience. So the horrific conditions in jail, how the legal system functions very arbitrarily, how the type of people I met in jail also, some big dons, some big politicians also. All those are outlining their lives and things like that. Afzal Guru, everyone was interested in Afzal Guru. All the interviews were taken were, because I was with Afzal Guru right from the day I entered and till the day he was hanged. And we were quite close like that. Because he was quite a liberal. He was not how they portrayed a terrorist and all that. He was, in fact, supporting Sufism, and he was a fan of Rumi. He was well read, all that stuff. And he was against terrorist methods of killing people and all that. But
he was against that.
Yeah, he was
but
very much.
But how he was part of that, that particular organization? I think he was a leader of that particular organization.
He was not a leader. He was framed, actually. That has come out very clearly in the media also now. But he didn't deny. He was for freedom of Kashmir from India and Pakistan. He was as much against Pakistan as he was against India. And much of the organizations there were pro-Pakistani. He didn't agree with that. He said they are only using Kashmir as a tool for their geopolitical stuff. That he was very clear about. And he was a very sensible person. And he said, I'm for free Kashmir, because it's such a paradise, Kashmir. And at every step you have got the army. It's like an open prison practically. So how such a nice place, a paradise, has been turned into a hell. So in that way he was for the freedom, but he was not in favor of terrorist methods.
But I think he was. I'm not sure, but because it's all from the media itself, but he was in crusading these pundits, right? He was part of that as well, right? So
actually, what he told me about the pundits is all media propaganda. It was Jagmohan Singh, the governor, who created a fear and pushed the pundits away to blame the militants. He says never out there that they killed Sikhs or pundits.
Which
Sikhs
is
are
fine.
also there.
Okay, see, they could have fled from Kashmir, but many people were killed, right? But that was not like media creation, because it happened. There are statistics supporting that.
Yeah, I don't know, but this is what he said. I have not really gone into the Kashmir issue, and that I don't know all the details. I didn't even discuss those things. But he did say about the pundits, there was much media propaganda about the
could be. Fleeing away from Kashmir could be a propaganda. But the thing is, the killings were there, right?
Yeah, even that very often is exaggerated. I know from the Naxalite movement that how they exaggerate the killing.
Yeah, but the thing is, it is true that if not 10, 5 might have died. If not 5, at least 3 might have died. So there were killings. Whether the number is same or not, killings were there, which is a fact.
So I'm not going into that because I have not studied the issue. I don't know the issue.
Right. Okay.
But this, I'm telling you what he mentioned.
Right.
That's all. And so this is the basic thing. People were more interested in Afzal Guru in the interview. So I also outlined his nature, his methods, his family also, who used to come there and meet him, and how he lived in jail.
Oh, okay. So his family was allowed to meet him?
Yeah, of course. Not when he was killed, not at the time of hanging. They refused to allow him to even phone the family. But otherwise, he was like any other prisoners. According to the rules, they were allowed. Though he was a death sentence. Our ward was because the Fasi Koti was next to our ward. So it was a high-risk ward. In which mostly there were these dons, big dons of UP and Bihar.
Wow.
Not Bihar, UP.
Okay.
Like the biggest don of India, Brajesh Singh, lived with me for nearly a year. And we ate together and we stayed together.
He was sentenced to death or?
No. He was just on a case.
Okay.
For a case, he got over after a year, he went back to Banaras jail. He was in Banaras jail, he was brought here.
Okay.
And he's really, and I outlined their lives also and their decency also. I brought out that they were more decent I felt than politicians. So, and they were very popular in their things as sort of Robin Hood type of people.
Right.
Jharkhand also, there was a don who was very close to me.
Okay.
One of the biggest dons of Jharkhand.
Okay.
So, all these I've outlined in the book in this section about the lives of these people. Then some revolutionaries also, the revolutionary movement I met in Hyderabad jail and in Jharkhand jail, I was very disappointed at the Naxalites in Jharkhand jail, so I've outlined their negative features basically. Because they didn't interact, they didn't help. I was never been to Jharkhand. It was a fake case, I've never been there. I didn't know anyone, but they didn't help. It was this don who helped me. I mean, with small things like hot water, clothes, this, that in winter and all that.
Right.
But they didn't lift a finger. A bad culture had been created out there. The big leaders who normally came apparently, that's what others told me, always had a lot of pots of money.
Okay.
Out there's a culture, you just ring up the squad and they will send the 50,000, 1 lakh, 2 lakhs or whatever. That's what I was told.
Wow. Okay.
So, that was a really bad culture. And I've outlined, I've recorded, I put things factually. What I saw, I told.
Yeah, as they were.
As they were.
Right.
Maybe right, maybe wrong, I don't know.
Right. But whatever you had come across.
Whatever I saw, I have recounted.
Wow.
Here I found it was very positive in Hyderabad, in this side. I have recounted the positive. Tihar was like a hell. The staff and the police and all that I said. But everywhere, in all other jails, I got very good treatment. Not like Tihar. I was in 7 jails. But most of my time, 7 years went in Tihar. Because this case went on for so long, slowly proceeded.
Where did you meet Afzal Guru?
In Tihar.
Tihar only.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was taken to the same ward as him.
Okay. So he was in
all these people I met there only in the jail. Afzal Guru, Brajesh Singh, this Titu Sharma, all the big dons also, many others. This Mukhtar Ansari's people, that all were there.
Okay.
They were all put in high risk. Even the Haryana dons.
Wow.
They were there, Bhawana and all that. They were all there. But I interacted because they were the main people in the Tihar jail. I interacted with them.
Right.
1 or 2 were very negative, the Haryana fellows. But otherwise, I found them very positive.
Like Robin Hoods.
Huh?
Like Robin Hoods, as you said.
Yeah, I get that impression basically.
Right. Okay.
I got more details with Jharkhand Don.
Okay.
Because he was living next to me and we interacted a lot.
Okay.
For nearly my full time there, over a year and a half.
Okay.
So that's in the second section.
Right.
Third section, which was really what I wanted to write about, was basically my perceptions of the movement. What happened to communism? When I came to communism, it was there as a major trend worldwide. By the time I'm now in jail or nearly old and dying, it's practically dead the world over. Why? So I've gone to the based on my own experiences and also based on what I access the world, is the weaknesses within us. The conditions I have outlined
Right.
are very bad and are getting worse by the day.
Right.
Capitalism is no answer, whether it's the Keynesian form or the neoliberal form,
Right.
because you can see the destruction they are doing to people's lives, the environment, to everything,
Right.
to even human nature.
Right.
So socialist economy is the only answer, but why is communism not popular? So I've outlined that the weakness of the communist movement is basically that we are not able to, we have assumed that we gain Marxist ideology, we automatically change, which is not so. We gain the knowledge of Marxism, but our value system is the old system, because I've gone into the question of the subconscious and the conscious mind. Because our subconscious mind is actually developed till the age of 7. And till the age of 7, we get what we get from our environment, which is the parents and the bourgeois and feudal and all that around.
Right.
That is embedded in our mind. And to get rid of that, we need the conscious mind, which is just 5% of the mind, needs to put in a lot of effort. And that the communists don't do. So the value systems are still the same: ego, one-upmanship, manipulativeness, selfishness, all that type of stuff remains to a large extent, particularly with the leadership. And so that's why I've tried to define that the goal should be happiness and not just equality or economic, raising the status economically.
Right.
And to achieve that happiness, we need within us a new value system, which I've said is Anuradha model, because she was the pratik, like she was the she had all those qualities of modesty, simplicity, and with being even a top leader, she became, it didn't affect her at all.
Right.
And she was as simple as before till her death. And so the value system, I've outlined these qualities of hers and said she's a model. There would be others, but I knew her well, so I put her as the model. And that's the value system. And there should be freedom also. Not that dictatorial, autocratic type of functioning, which is the norm in communist parties. And then also after state power, we see it in China and Russia. So that model should be there. And maybe with these changes, we will become more acceptable to the people who really need change, who need change but don't know where to get it. Because today there is no model country that exists.
Right.
China's gone the capitalist way, Russia's Soviet Union had disintegrated and now it's in a bad state. So there is nothing, no example, and people tend to say that this is all outdated.
Right.
But I feel it's not outdated because capitalism is in a crisis, severe crisis, and has already created destruction, is going to create more destruction, which we can talk about in that Corona Capitalism article. But so what is the alternative? No doubt socialism or communism has also failed. So I said it needs socialism with a new face.
Right.
And basically. And even the socialist economy should have a balance between the state and the private and all that type of stuff. And the base, what is base and superstructure in Marxist terminology, the economic base should be so formulated that it impacts our party or organization or that is running the country or the area, what it is, in a way that facilitates these values, freedom, new values and happiness.
Right.
Because both are interlinked. If you have a monolithic state structure, it is dictatorial, and that will be reflected in the party and the organization.
Right.
So these things are interlinked. It's not so the type of, we can do it through experience, practice, even while developing. I don't have a formula.
Right.
Maybe I'll try and work on something later, but it should be so formulated with the understanding that the economic base should facilitate the superstructure developing with these humane values. So basically that's my conclusion in the book, that for future generations, hope they'll do a better job than we did.
Right, right. Yeah, like what you said, that you can't coin this word happiness.
Yeah.
That's not what these. So till now, none of these philosophies or whatever we can call or ideologies, right? Neither communists or capitalists. They never coined this.
Yeah.
But that was what we should be really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Once happiness is there, yeah, rest of the things they will fall into the place, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. There is a saying in Sanskritam, I think, Sarve Jana Sukhno Bhavantu.
Okay.
So, Sarve Jana Sukhno Bhavantu means everyone should be happy.
Uh-huh.
So,
You see, many of these spiritual gurus also talk of happiness. I've been in touch with many of them. But it's more esoteric. Get it through meditation, through inward this thing.
right.
Yeah,
That's,
you have
that's
to
for
change.
that's for internal.
Yeah, you
this
have
thing.
to change
Right.
internally. There's no doubt.
There is
That
no doubt.
aspect
Yes.
is true.
Yes.
But you cannot get it just by staying on yourself, isolated
right.
from people.
Right. Yes.
Your true qualities will come out through interaction.
Correct.
They say get rid of your fears, get rid of your guilt, all that through some spiritual, which I do work on.
Right.
I do that. And it's very helpful.
Right.
But finally, your fears and guilt and all will be reflected in your interaction with people.
Correct.
If you cut yourself off from society and sit on a mountain meditating,
Right.
you will not impact society also.
That's right.
And you will not know really whether you've changed or not, because your negative features come out in the course of your interaction.
Correct. But actually, it starts with a kind of philosophy. Like, for example, you go for a buffet, right, for having food.
Yeah.
So everyone, you'll have, whether it's spoon or with your fingers, you will eat. Then what happens? You would like to go for more, or you go for washing your hands, right? So nobody bothers whether their plate is going to touch the others. They only look for anybody is touching them.
Achha.
If you start with yours, if it is not touching anyone, if it's not bothering anyone, right? Obviously, and if it is implied to everyone, if everyone is following that, obviously there will be a harmony. So nobody touches the other one, because this is in your hands. You take care of this. So this one, that should be many, right? If it is multiplied. So I mean that's the kind of philosophy they are talking about. When you should heal yourself first.
Yeah.
Internally, if you are doing it,
correct.
then of course you should reciprocate the same thing to the society as well.
Correct. Yes.
Obviously, we will achieve that one.
Yeah, they
as
don't.
you said, right. It should go to that extent.
They don't focus much on the latter part.
Right.
So, but I am also trying to get what these spiritual people are doing to do internal change, because we have to include that part also into our
that
agenda.
That is true.
To get these values, to get the freedom, get the happiness.
If you don't believe that one, right, internally, and if you are not looking within yourself and see what is really happiness and all that stuff, then you won't be able to do that to the society as well.
Do it? Yes.
Exactly.
And most of us, especially middle class and all, even now the other section of society, are terribly alienated from ourselves. I've dealt with that also, touched on that in the book. Alienated in what way? We see the society portrays so many things by the media, this, that, advertisements, all that. We get a certain sense of values which are inculcated further, deeply in. But we can't fulfill those things, same things that we see.
Right.
So it manifests in various forms. Actually, what happened was that when this lockdown and all started, that it was internationally imposed, seemed to me some sort of odd. Never has it happened in history.
Right.
And it seemed to be something more to it behind what was being portrayed as a virus.
Right.
So from the beginning only I was a little bit suspicious, because these capitalist people, you can't trust anything of that, and imperialists are even worse,
right.
Americans.
Right.
But so it seemed something odd, and I was not comfortable with it. Then it came to the question of lockdown, closing all, destroying all industry, destroying that. I could not figure it out first. Why, if it's being done by the big companies, the those billionaire club, if this is being, because they call the agenda everywhere, Why would they want the destruction of the, as it is, I researched right at the beginning that in the first quarter of 2020, the entire Western countries had gone into one of the severe economic recessions.
Was about to hit.
No, it had already hit.
It is? Okay.
Yeah, first quarter from
thinking,
January
okay.
to March, American economy contracted by 7%, Europe by about the same amount, and Japan by the same amount.
Okay.
A contraction of 7% has never happened in the history of the world economies except during the Great Depression of 1930. So that was also I knew. Media didn't portray it, but I discovered it because when I was uncomfortable with this lockdown business that was going on. So I said, something behind it. But then why should they want to destroy everything? They would want it to grow. This doesn't fit in.
Right.
Then I couldn't find an answer for long. Then in the meantime, I was working on my book. So I didn't even research that book.
Okay.
I used the COVID period to write this Fraction Freedom.
Okay.
When I finished the book by about, it was released in March this year, but say about by December or so, I finished the book. I started doing more. Actually, I was gathering a lot of information and just filing it in my computer. Wanting to work on this in a future date because it was disturbing me at that time. And things when they disturb, I tend to get very unsettled. This thing, because that's why even in jail, things disturbed me while I was reading. I would write articles. Unfortunately, I had a very good magazine called Mainstream, who printed anything I wrote. And to this day, they've only published my Corona Capitalism article.
Okay.
Actually, it was commissioned by another magazine, Frontier, but they refused to take such a long article. It came out very long.
Okay.
So then I went to Mainstream. So the article is there in Frontier also in the latest issue in a short form.
Okay.
But the main thing is in this thing, Mainstream. Both are weeklies. So in December then I started researching more and started delving deeper into the nature of the economy. And what I realized that is, what I found out in the course of my study is that today, two things. One is economic power in the West is concentrated in the hands of just three companies, the financiers. It's called asset management groups. Basically, they are called BlackRock, Vanguard, and Street City. Together they have 11 trillion of assets. These are the asset management groups they are called. Means what? They manage the assets of the billionaires.
Right.
So all Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Amazon fellow and Bill Gates and all their money is here with these people.
Right.
These people invest it so that to make money.
Right.
And they are the front men for these people. And I found out that these three companies control nearly all the companies of the world. The big companies. Through shareholdings.
Right.
BlackRock, Vanguard, I independently cross-checked and I found that to be true. Google has BlackRock, Vanguard, Street City, 8%, 7%, 5%, something like that. So also Pepsi, so also Pfizer, so also Glaxo, so also X. All these companies are basically controlled by the same
group.
Thing. It's a really horrifying thing. So the pharma companies also and the whole and Bill Gates is a frontman for the vaccine. He's invested heavily in vaccines, Bill Gates and his foundation, in the name of philanthropy.
Right.
So I researched and I found that then I started getting the answer to this question, why they want to destroy industry. You see, I found out that in a severe economic crisis, the main capitalist companies, the corporates, what do they want? They want investments and markets. That's how the world functions. So markets are being destroyed by this and the capital also is being destroyed. Now what I gathered from this is that by destroying small scale industry, destroying all the lives of even peoples, two things they will gain. They will gain those markets, they will buy them up cheap, they will go bankrupt, and those big corporates will become even bigger, and they will also capture the market of the small industry. So that was the game plan. So that's why it helps them, not the whole system, but it helps the corporate. That's why during this period, you will see the wealth of all the billionaires have increased tenfold.
Right.
All, internationally and also in India.
Right.
Also, the profit margin has gone up because what has happened, working from home, all these type of things, is all the overhead expenditures are cut down enormously.
Right.
I am told one company in Bombay, IT company, I forget which was Tata's, was it TCS or something? I'm not sure which one, but have saved millions. It came in the media. There's all my media reports. Rest is research. Save millions of dollars a month just by cutting off the ACs.
Right.
And this thing. And there's talk that this will be the new normal and you will work from home. So they will dispense of all the high price flats, the offices also, all that stuff. So it's the huge saving in this thing, and so the profit margins have gone up. In fact, Indian Sensex companies, the 4,000 top big capital companies, they're the big caps, small caps and mid caps, if you know the stock exchange, how they operate. So the big caps dominate the Sensex index. They have made a profit 171% over last year. It's unheard of during COVID first phase.
Wow.
The second quarter. So I was seeing all this and noting all this down, and so then I slowly began to understand the mechanics of why the lockdown and why the virus. Now, then after I got this picture, I went back to the virus. This small thing, how it is affecting the whole world. And this virus, I looked. First, I researched also the vaccine, how effective it is. But first, I researched this question of masking and all that type of stuff. He's masking. But
yeah, I do have it in my pocket.
Yeah, I also have it in my pocket, only for the police. I went on Google and saw the size of the holes of these masks and the size of the virus. And I found the holes in the mask, the small holes in the cloth, is about 300 times the size of the virus. So it's no protection.
Right.
So, and also it's open from so many sides. Unless you have an N95 mask, it's open from all sides, so it'll go on anyway.
Right.
So it's all psychological to shut your mouth and doesn't protect you. So that I found out. But besides that, and why are they so forcefully enforcing it? It's unheard of. In Bombay and Pune, the police are there all the time looking inside your car, you're looking inside this thing to catch people masking. I'm walking on the sea face, which is open air. There these municipal people or police people around trying to catch you, so you have to put the mask on. You can't enjoy fresh air. It's really, and you're breathing in your own dirty air all the time. It's destroying your lungs, in fact, reducing your immunity. So, but before that, I started researching the virus. Forget the mask, whether it's good or bad. I didn't write about that. That I'm saying now. But I researched the virus. Is it truly a genuine virus or is it a lab-created one? This thing. So, Lancet, which is the main medical journal, within 1 month of the coronavirus said there is no doubt that it is a zoonotic. Zoonotic means natural. It comes from the bat to the animal to the... Then I went further and deeper and I saw that true, most of all the other viruses were zoonotic. True. That SARS and MERS, after a lot of research, they discovered that SARS was the intermediary animal was the civet cat. And MERS, the intermediary animal was the camels. That's why Middle East something syndrome. So that was discovered. The intermediary animal showed that it was zoonotic. Zoonotic means transmission from animal to human.
Humans, right.
But till today they have not found the animal for COVID.
For COVID, right.
So that raises doubts. People were raising doubts before, right at the beginning. Lancet, before getting any evidence of the animal to which it was translated, 80 scientists, top scientists, wrote a signed article in Lancet saying that this is zoonotic, it's come from there. People who are talking that it's lab created are conspiracy theorists. Anyone who goes out of the norm are conspiracy. And they were top doctors, Rashid Bullard, all these people in America. He had worked in the US Army also. I mean, he was one of the 50 top doctors, he said. He openly said that this is not this thing. Any of his video shows were banned on YouTube after some time. There were other channels, so you could see this Rashid Bullard. So I was seeing all this also, and then it became so difficult for them to defend the zoonotic theory that one Wade, what's his name, Christopher Wade or something, a top scientific journalist, he is a very prestigious person, wrote a 26-page article showing that it was not zoonotic. And that came out also, which I read. And he's a science journal, a lot of scientific mumbo-jumbos in it, which I also didn't understand. But he wrote from a scientific point. And he's a really top prestigious scientific journalist in America. When he wrote this article and I saw it, then I got my confirmation that yes, this is not. Then I went further and researched this, and I wrote an article in Mainstream. First article was Origin of the Virus. So then I saw that when I read this article, that there's no evidence of it being zoonotic, of transmission, because the animal has not yet been found after so much research. 16 months had passed, and those other ones were found out within 4 and 9 months. Then I said that, and why are these people saying that it is zoonotic? That question arises. When there's no evidence, why are they saying it? Obviously there's something behind it.
Right.
Why should they, and so assertively and go red in the face when people say it is not zoonotic? When they don't have, really they go violent, those doctors, and were promoting the zoonotic theory in Lancet and all that. But when Wade came out, they had to be quiet because he has apparently a big reputation.
Right.
And so then the Biden administration, after his thing, was forced to declare an investigation of the origin of the virus. He declared it also. He admitted that there is no proof that it is yet zoonotic. And when the investigation is still going on, it will go on till doomsday. But in the meantime, I investigated all the conspiracy behind all this. The Wuhan lab, I found, was funded by Fauci.
Okay.
It was built by French and German scientists out there, the whole lab. And the bat lady, the top Chinese virologist, was trained for 3 months by the top virologists of America in germ warfare.
Okay.
Germ warfare means genetically modifying the coronavirus, which has been researched for long in America.
Right.
Obama brought out some restrictions temporarily, so Fauci shifted to Wuhan.
Okay.
Now this is not mentioned at all in any newspaper, mainline. Why is it not?
Right.
Why are they silent about this reality?
Right.
So then I wrote this article, Origin of the Virus. There's no evidence of it being zoonotic. So that leaves two things. It leaves that it's a lab leak. The leak can be accidental. It could be conscious.
Conscious, right.
Now that we can't decide whether it's accidental or conscious.
Right.
But certainly it looks more like a lab leak.
Right.
So in my article, I've left it at that.
Okay.
That basically there's no evidence of it being zoonotic till today, and it's a lab leak. It's for future to decide whether it is whether it's accidental
but it looks more like conscious.
Yeah, because if you link it to the economy and the lockdown and all, it certainly looks more conscious.
More conscious, yes.
I won't say it.
We can't certainly say it.
We'll say it until we have evidence.
Right.
So that was my first article, about 15-20 pages research article. It came in Mainstream also, on the origin of the virus. By then vaccines had come out. I'm still researching into vaccines. I'm not writing, but I will write. What is the nature of the vaccine? I was against taking the vaccine. I did not take it. But Uddhav Thackeray, our chief minister forced me to take it because he made it compulsory for traveling for everything. So I took it. But I have no faith in it.
Right.
Even while coming here yesterday night, I took my second dose of ivermectin. Ivermectin tablet I find more effective from what I've read than the vaccine. So I don't trust the vaccine will protect me. I believe this ivermectin will and they're suppressing ivermectin.
Right.
They're suppressing that completely. They're saying when people start taking, when Goa government, when people were dying by the hundreds out there in Goa of COVID, he got desperate, the chief minister, and started distributing ivermectin. WHO intervened and said, stop it.
Stop it, yes.
Can you imagine?
Actually,
to that extent?
even AP government distributed ivermectin, and
Did it?
Yes, it did.
Even I believe UP government did.
Okay.
So when it was getting bad, this was a way to control it.
Right.
It's been proved. The fellow got a Nobel Prize for ivermectin discovery.
Right.
Not for COVID, but for other things. But it's being proved like that. But these, and yesterday this Krishna was telling me, this doctor who runs this hospital, he was telling me an interesting thing. Merck, the company, pharmaceutical Merck, is the one who manufactured ivermectin.
Okay.
But it was manufactured 40 years ago, so they have no patent rights on it.
Right.
So they can't make the profits.
Right.
And now Merck has been told to make statements that ivermectin is very dangerous. He told me that. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And funnily enough, when I bought the tablet yesterday, the strip of ivermectin to have, because I thought I had brought it with me, but I found I didn't have it. So finally last night I bought it. The tablet cost 450 rupees a strip, when as far as I remember, it cost me only 80 rupees there. So either they've hiked up the price because people are buying and still making again
that's it.
Super profits or whatever. I'll go back and check.
Yeah.
My memory is bad, so I'll go back and check and
I think ivermectin, as you said, it costs around 80 rupees. I think.
Yeah, it does,
no? Not wrong, yes. I think.
Yeah, it was, and branded, not generic, as you are saying. These were different brands, maybe. Many people are now manufacturing because many people are believing it's more effective than the vaccine.
Right.
So I've written this long article on basic. Then I brought out how India is intertwined in this whole conspiracy of the West.
Right.
India is totally involved through organizations like the PHFI. PHFI, have you heard of it?
No, I've never heard of it.
You heard of it? You heard of it? I have not heard of it also. I had not heard of it. They are basically running the entire COVID program.
Wow.
This PHFI.
Okay.
It's a really conspiratorial organization, not in the forefront of any media. It is chaired by one Srinath Reddy, who's obviously a top mafia, linked with these characters. It was set up in 2006 by Bill Gates and McKinsey Group, you know, what was that fellow's name? The CEO who was put in jail for insider trading? Some Gupta. What's his name? Full name is?
I don't remember that.
Is Gupta. And he was the CEO of McKinsey.
Okay.
Later, he was caught for insider trading and he's jailed in America.
Okay.
I don't know if he's now released.
I don't remember.
But he and Bill Gates and some of the others were the ones who came here, and he's an American citizen. He may be Indian origin.
Okay.
But an American citizen came here, set up the PHFI, it was inaugurated by the Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh. The government donated 80 crores for it. Bill Gates donated 80 crores. And the other 80 crores or 100 crores, 200 crores they wanted a fund for, was given by all the billionaires of India, mostly, and also the pharma companies, Indian pharma companies. And they made up the corpus of 200 crores. And they set up institutes all over the country, I think 5-6 institutes, including Hyderabad, Delhi, I've mentioned the places, where land was given free, where everything was given free. So state governments also are involved in this. And I'm wondering, all state governments are implementing the agenda, or in fact competing. Because of this PHFI, they are all interlinked. They had already spread their tentacles throughout the country, throughout all parties, throughout everything. And basically, it's people like Bill Gates, Rockefeller Foundation, all these people who are controlling the strings. I've written all this in the article with a lot of facts, how they are operating this corporate mafia from America. Controlled by basically people like Rockefeller, Rothschild, using people like Fauci and Bill Gates as their agents. and these foundations, Bill Gates Foundations, Rockefeller Foundation, George Soros Foundation, Clinton Foundation, these are the 3-4 major foundations.
Right.
Ford Foundation is now nowhere on there. In our old days it was Ford Foundation. But they must be there somewhere. But these are the main ones operating. And through these foundations, they have their tentacles all over India and other third world countries.
Right.
And all politicians are in it, from Modi to Shiv Sena to Kejriwal. That's why you'll find all of them implementing this agenda. In fact, trying to compete. We are better lockdown people. We are better lockdown people. The state government.
Right.
Here there is no difference. And the whole question is that the left, the bulk of the left, are playing into the whole game of Bill Gates. There was an article by Bob Wade. Bob Wade is a very prestigious scientist, virologist, Marxist virologist. He's a regular contributor to the very prestigious American magazine Monthly Review. He appeared on the front page of Frontline, cover story, as an interview. And all people were sending it to me because they wanted to convince me of the left viewpoint, so-called left viewpoint. So I was getting that magazine from many sources. All my left friends are all supporting the Bill Gates agenda.
Right.
That's the tragedy. And left and liberals.
Right.
Except this doctor that I met here. The first person I've met who was, I was so happy. But without researching, it's just the media brainwashing and the fear. If they've researched deeply into psychology.
Right.
And they know that fear, guilt, these two things destroys a person especially fear of death, makes a person go crazy. I mean, he'll listen to anything.
Yes.
And reproduce anything, and that's what they've done. The fear of death has been put into everyone.
Right.
And they've done that. So I've analyzed this in depth, but some gaps are still there, like vaccine gap and all that.
Right.
I plan to study these further, plan further knowledge of the economy and its impact on India, and develop that into my next book, in fact.
Okay.
My next book is targeted to analyze what is, it's basically, and lastly, I read the World Economic Forum Chairman's book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, by Klaus Schwab. He is the founder of World Economic Forum, and till today, he is the unchallenged CEO of the World Economic Forum. He is obviously a big-time player, and Davos, World Economic Forum is the Davos Convention,
Right.
which they meet, all the billionaire clubs meet with their chamchas. And so what happens is that he's written a book, COVID-19 Great. He's set it out in detail what the world is going to be. New normal, all these words, pandemic, this thing. And another thing I've discovered in the course of the article, more is discovered afterwards, that this entire pandemic was in September 2019, Bill Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation and World Economic Forum simulated a convention with all what happened afterwards. Lockdown, pandemic, social distancing, masking, all that was done in 2019 September, simulated the whole thing. Openly, it's open, but public don't know it. But it's there for if you want to research it.
Okay, let me have a look at it.
And now they come out with some agenda 2030, it's called, by the same gangsters. And their slogan is what? By 2030, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. You will own nothing, but you will be happy. So that's what they were aiming at. That you will live on doles from the government.
Right.
And if you don't behave yourself, the doles will stop. And you will not exist any longer. So it's a frightening 1984 scenario, or you can call it even worse, Brave New World, what Aldous Huxley wrote. It is that scenario he's portrayed in reality. You read the book.
Right, I have to.
2 books you read. He's first wrote a book in 2016 called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which also talks in the same way. And more clearly he's put it in COVID-19, The Great Reset. So that's why I've titled my article, it's an answer to Klaus Schwab. Corona Capitalism, Reverse the Great Reset. That's what I'm saying. And because they're all our government here is working in that line.
Right.
And there was an article a book which apparently was, I don't know, I've missed it, I don't know if you have read it or. In 2007 it came by Naomi Klein, American girl. She wrote a book called The Shock Doctrine, Formula for Disaster Capitalism, a formula of or something like that. And in that book she says, these people, that time she took this disaster, I mean the Iraq war and such things, she gave examples. And how they will manufacture disasters and in the disaster period push through all these neoliberal and dangerous policies.
Right.
Exactly that was played out in the last session of Parliament. You just see the type of bills that have been passed.
Right.
One after the other, they was just pushed through in the few days that the Parliament sat.
Right.
It's nothing but what she said then, disaster of lockdown, fear from the second wave, and then they created a huge fear of a third wave coming, which was all fake. But the second wave made people believe, because second wave was real. And even that could have been prevented if they used ivermectin and these other formulas, doxycycline. Many people have come out with a formula. He got it. He went into nearly coma and all that type of stuff. You need not reach that stage.
Right.
Once the virus reaches your lung, after it takes about 4 or 5 days, it explodes.
Right.
And manufactures. And it's very difficult then to kill it with steroids and all these other things. They have no medicines anyway for virus. But if you get small symptoms, the doctors say, have this ivermectin, anyway, have ivermectin as a prophylactic.
Right.
But if you get it, there's a dose, 2 tablets a day, morning, evening, 2 tablets of doxycycline and zinc.
Right.
You have that and you will kill the virus. And you can drink hot water, steaming.
Right.
Additionally, it will kill it before it reaches the lung and you don't go to hospital, you don't have to spend 15, 16 lakhs and nothing. But then who will make the money? If that is there. And they virtually made, if you see in the second wave particularly, they virtually made, each hospitals have made lakhs of rupees from every patient on death. And most of them have died that have reached that stage.
Right.
So they've sucked out the money and killed the person, when it could have been prevented from reaching the hospital.
Right.
They allowed, by suppressing this information of ivermectin and this formula, and zinc, and there are many others, vitamin C, vitamin D also act as a very good immunity booster.
Boosters. Right.
So you don't need to get, I've never worn a mask, I'm 74, I've moved around, I have not got it. And another big thing, fear. Fear kills your immunity also.
Correct.
And wearing the mask, where you breathe in the carbon dioxide, destroys your lungs and further reduces your immunity.
Right.
So it makes you more susceptible not only to COVID, to any other disease.
Any other thing.
Any disease.
Right.
Virus or bacteria that is roaming around.
Right.
I feel it's a real conspiracy. I'm getting more and more convinced so. COVID, I'm not saying, some of these conspiracy theorists do say that COVID itself is a fraud. There's no COVID,
Right.
It's an influenza.
Right.
Like any other, influenza is also coronavirus.
Correct.
So this is also nothing but a different form of influenza. No, I believe it was leaked, consciously leaked.
Right. Right.
Two, these people like Bill Gates and all, they openly support eugenics. Eugenics is the theory for reducing population.
Right.
This is that Malthus theory of today. And all these, Rockefeller and all, are openly saying that population needs to be reduced. So people are fearing, that I have to research, fearing that the vaccine has sterilization ability.
Okay.
You won't get kids if you have the vaccine. But I don't know. That's rumors only. That is there amongst the people also. Poor people are saying that, not the rich. But it's just an impression. People don't trust the government. That's why they're saying that.
Right.
But it's whether that's so or not, that's not important. The point is, the vaccine, no vaccine in the world has been pushed as this vaccine has been pushed to everyone. Why?
Correct.
The question is, people should think, and the percentage of deaths through COVID is no higher than any other disease.
Correct.
It's hardly 1%, 2%.
Right.
Getting the COVID is not a problem.
Right.
Dying is the problem.
Right.
So we have to see the deaths And it's not much higher than any other disease. In fact, it's much lower, they say.
Right.
Especially in countries like India, which so many 1.5 million die of TB every year.
Right.
So the whole question is, why did they do this? Just for the money? Of course, there's huge funds in vaccines.
Right.
And this is right from the beginning, from the polio to others vaccine. There's a lot of debate on those issues also. AIDS vaccine, all started by that man, Fauci. He started in 84 with the AIDS vaccine. Created the AIDS, they said he created the AIDS germ, pushed it to the Africans, and then developed the vaccine for it.
Yeah, but there is no vaccine to AIDS, right?
Isn't there?
No.
It's not yet working?
No.
Achha. So whatever it did, this Fauci was behind the AIDS thing also. So, and he's been there continuously from 84 till now.
Right,
Can you imagine?
Right.
And he's been under a lot of criticism, but no one can remove him. He's so powerful.
Right.
Trump was against him, but he couldn't touch him.
Right.
He couldn't remove him. And Biden, of course, is working with him.
Right.
So this is the whole agenda now. It's such a horrific scenario coming in the world. And one has to prepare for it. And to the extent possible, oppose it. It's a world phenomenon.
Right.
And they're working very systematically in that direction. Today, one person from UK, not today, a few days back, told me in UK, there's no food in the shops, in the shop markets. All food has disappeared from the shop. They're saying that there are no truck drivers, there are no this, there's no that. I got just now I saw we got a message, someone is checking it, of all the companies that have closed down in America. A list of them, all the top retail companies, this, that, except of course Walmart and Amazon, the two big mafias.
Right.
But all the other names I haven't heard of. There's something, 30, 40 companies,
Right.
well-known companies in the US have closed down in this period.
Yeah, actually even before that, as you said, why I was saying it was about to come, because I usually don't go through these economics and all these finance things, but I look at the job market. Because I'm from the IT industry, so I look at the job market. So I used to see that, okay, in the first quarter of 2020, there were more firings. Like, they were letting the people go from the company.
That's right, yeah.
So I was expecting that, okay, maybe a recession is about to
Oh, really? From that
hit.
factor?
That's how I was thinking. That's why I said, it was about to come, but with your stats,
Yeah,
it already did hit. Right.
Yeah, the unemployment was very high in those countries then. By March itself it was very high, March, April. But then they put everything down to the lockdown.
Exactly.
After that.
Everything, yeah.
Because then it contracted 20% in the next quarter of the lockdown.
Right. So, and everyone is blaming this COVID.
Yeah, everyone blaming COVID.
Right.
So the actual root of the problem was covered up.
Right.